Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, yWhales, wherever in the world you are. So today's a really interesting and fun interview that we have because, again, we're going to be blending a little bit of the lines between the real world and the metaverse, but we're going to do it with yachting, not boating, yachting, with Mr. Bob Denison of Denison Yachts. So, but you're not here to talk about physical yachts as much today, which is your passion. We'll talk about that here in a second. But I believe it's Cloud Yachts, and but again, I'm going to hold back a little bit of that. Bob, you've been in this industry, so as far as anyone that understands yachting, that understands the large scale of these boats and the passion that people have towards these, you're third generation in this, correct?
Yep, exactly. Third generation. My grandparents started building boats, or we like to say yachts, back in 1948 here in Fort Lauderdale. They started a company called Broward Marine, and that was sort of what our family did for 50, 60 years. And the year I graduated college back in 99 was the year they decided to sell the company, which is a little bit of a heartbreaking thing for a kid that thought that's what I was going to do for the rest of my life. But I think it was a smart decision. Shipbuilding and yacht building here in the U.S. is extremely hard to do. There's very few people left doing it. So we pivoted in 2001 to yacht brokerage, which is it's essentially the same thing as real estate brokerage, the same process of buying a yacht or selling a yacht as it is buying or selling a home. We consider ourselves to be way cooler because we get to sell yachts. But it's a very, very similar sort of cousin industry. And yeah, we have 22 offices. We sold about 1,000 boats and yachts last year. And we have been market leaders for 3 years in a row in what is considered the super yacht category, which is 80 feet and above. Yeah, we do a heck of a lot of charters and sales, and it's a really easy job to be passionate about because it's fun to get out in the water. And the people that do tend to own yachts are a little crazy in terms of just spending so much money, kind of pointed in that one direction of fun, family memories, sort of like escaping reality, hitting the water, and just having a blast. So that's kind of what we do in a nutshell.
That's amazing. So, as far as the physical side of these boats, I mean, they are massively they're massive assets,
Yes.
and when you're buying and selling and moving these, it's similar to buying a commercial building almost. So you have inspections, you have appraisals, you have it's more, they're not mortgages, but there's pretty similar to that. So I mean, there's a lot that goes into. It's not just like, hey, when we're dealing on the super yacht category, these aren't Facebook or Craigslist ads. These are highly in depth, qualified agents representing multi-million and mega million dollar assets, correct?
Yeah, exactly. Our process, I mentioned the real estate, but it also ties in a little bit of the high end automotive experience. We kind of have a B2B component, just the complexity of the deal. The survey, what would be a home inspection, we call survey sea trial, can take anywhere from 2 days to 5 days, depending on the scope of it. And yeah, there's a lot of moving parts. And a really good real estate broker or a really good yacht broker is going to have just a really, really good knowledge of the process and also good resources, the right people to use, who to avoid, and all of that. So there's a lot of similarities between those three industries, and we always learn a lot from real estate, and we learn a lot from automotive.
Awesome. So, and before we get into, I like this kind of conversation about, how you guys manage these because there's so much to it. So, cryptocurrency is clearly, what we spend most of our time talking on. Have you seen an influx of cryptocurrency buyers looking in this category?
Yeah, actually, back in 2016, we started accepting cryptocurrency with BitPay. And we were very proud of ourselves that we were the first people to do it in our space. And it took about a year and a half, 2 years to actually get our first transaction under our belts. So a lot of my competitors were sort of teasing me that it was a little bit of a marketing gimmick, which it really truly never was. And we sold our first one after about 18 months, and then to date we've done about a dozen transactions, almost $30 million in total sales. And the crypto thing's definitely taking off, and it has less to do with the value of crypto. And in our case, we've done again about a dozen. They've all been Bitcoin specifically, and just more as you would imagine, and as you already know, just people being familiar with crypto, feeling comfortable with it, and feeling safe. And this is kind of okay and normal. We are getting inquiries at least on a weekly basis now, whereas of course a few years ago it was like every month or so.
Yeah, I mean it's a real challenge. So we, in one of my other companies, we have a real estate division, and so we do accept cryptocurrencies. We don't do the full mortgage most of the time, but obviously people want to use deposits and everything else. And for myself and people like the ones you're speaking of, there's just a comfort to saying like this is the address I have to send it to. I can go ahead and move this money. I don't have to call the bank. I don't have to worry about there's nothing more terrifying to me than a cashier's check. Like I think that like the fact that that even exists in this world today is insane.
Right, and,
You
and
know,
a
and
cashier's check's almost useless nowadays anyway because there's a hold on them. It
yeah,
used to be that was cash. You just kind of
yeah,
brought it, and nowadays you have the liability of having that cashier's check in your hand with very little upside to it because it's still going to take many days to clear.
absolutely. And then, wires have their own sets of, fraud and delay. And someone who just bought a, multi-million dollar yacht doesn't like they're no longer and they waited for sea trials, they waited for all these things. There's no 3 to 5 days for a wire to get through. I mean,
Right.
it's so I'm sure there's a little bit of speed and comfort there. So that's fabulous.
Yeah.
Let's jump over now and really talk about the NFT project. Where did the idea come from, and how did you guys? Obviously, what is it?
So we've been looking at NFTs for a few years now. Really, kind of, we saw it initially the NFT play and offering NFTs as a as a solution for our clients, almost as like a kissing cousin to crypto. And I couldn't ever get my mind totally wrapped around the idea of an NFT and how it would actually provide some kind of value or solve some kind of problem in our space, which is really what we did with crypto. That same year that we accepted crypto, we flew to Hong Kong and opened up a multi-currency account to provide a very safe way for people in a bunch of different foreign currencies to hold their money in escrow. Crypto was an extension of that. It was our way of going to the client as opposed to asking the client to come to us. So all that being said, for a few years, the NFT thing, I couldn't figure it out. And then I ran into a guy named Zach. Actually, he came into our office sort of unannounced. I've got I've got this idea, and we're known in our little industry as being sort of forward thinking, open to new ideas type of people. So I sat down with him, and then we started kind of connecting the dots together, and we figured out. And I say I really need to give a lot of credit to Zach. Really discovering ways to make it a not only fun but useful tool for people that own or want to buy yachts. And so we started a company called Cloud Yachts, and we had our first launch at the Miami Yacht Show in February. And since then, Zach and his team have sold almost 300 NFTs for not quite, but close to about $150,000 in transactions, which I think is around 50, 60 ETH right now. So yeah, we've had a tiny bit of success. Again, when you look at some of the bigger NFT stories and plays, it's very small. But for us, we like it, and it's taken a lot of different sort of directions and what this thing will end up looking like in a few years. But I think we're off to a pretty good start.
And listen, it's very early, and so even people that like the idea of it may not have access or understanding how to use a self custody wallet and all of those types of things. So give me the kind of the long term vision, like where's this going, and why in an early phase when not all the utility and everything else is built around it, why would someone want to invest? And it looks like I just looked on your minting site, you got 311 of them out there.
Yeah,
There's total 500, so you've got a couple left. And to be clear, that's not a bad thing. Remember, it took the Board Ape Yacht Club 8 months to mint out.
yeah,
So
and that's one minting. So we've done about five so far, and
okay,
that's our latest one. And yeah, we I think that was about 2 or 3 weeks ago, maybe a month. It's all kind of going so much faster than I think it is. But I think that that minting is about 3 weeks old, and there's a few different use cases here and a few things that we're offering, and in a lot of ways we're stumbling our way through it. And I hesitate to answer the question, but I will because you asked me of what does this look like in a few years. I always look back on like I think it was Katie Couric and Al Roker kind of trying to explain what the internet was going to be back in 1996, and they're
yeah,
confused as to what like. I feel like that's me right now, and I don't know exactly what this is going to look like, but it's going to look like something that
that's the entire industry.
yeah, right. So I will take my best stab at that question specific to the yachting industry. But there's a few neat things happening. One is what we're doing right now, which is that drop is with in real life yacht designer named Caselli. And Marco Caselli is one of the best designers in the industry. And it was important to us was to draw in and attract in real life best of the best yacht designers. We did a series with uh, Dickie Bannenberg and his partner Bannenberg and Rao, Gregory Marshall, and it was really important that it was that people in our industry would have respect for the artwork that was there, and so we're doing drops based on those in real life. Designers, and then it's got a utility to it. So the first drop we did at the Miami Yacht Show, all the NFT holders will have access to 3 years of VIP experiences with Informa, who puts on the Fort Lauderdale show, the Palm Beach show, the Miami show, and the Monaco Yacht Show. And
That's a big one.
yeah, so we really, it was important to us that it also tied into real life things that would be exciting and fun for people. And then we've also entered into these really neat conversations with a few of these designers. Gregory Marshall would be the primary one. And if you Google Gregory Marshall, he's best of the best of the best. And he designed a yacht called Artifact, which was the showstopper, can't believe this thing exists type of a yacht back in September at the Monaco show. And he and his team are developing really, really neat, what will one day be neat Metaverse solutions where they're meeting with vendors and other designers and yacht owners and developing ways to uh, build a yacht with goggles on many, many, many miles apart. And I think that's going to be a neat way to build a boat one day and possibly to service a boat one day is to interact with each of those components in a yacht that could then be purchased as an NFT. So that I think is definitely one of the ways that our space is going to be using NFTs in the future. And the other one we saw it in real estate. I think it was 2 months ago. There was a house that was sold as an NFT in Tampa here in Florida. And I believe that will happen with yachts as well, and is just a way to manage documentation and to make the transaction of buying or selling a yacht faster and easier. And I think that'll happen soon. I sure as hell hope we're the first to do it, but who knows? But I really believe that'll happen at some point at the end of this year.
Yeah, I think, personal theses, not financial advice or any advice, but I think title, regardless of what industry, is destined to move to the blockchain sooner than later. It's absolutely goes against the entire theses of title to have it stored in some archaic closed door format versus the blockchain being able to have all the information move forward with that yacht. Look, the builder has a lot of information, all these blueprints, plans, everything else. Load them into the NFT, load them into a secured site. Doesn't mean the public gets access to them, but whoever owns that has the ability to you know add to it. Here's the service records, here's this. So when they go to bring it to you and say, Bob, I no longer want this yacht that I bought 3 years ago and used twice, um,
Yeah.
then everything's there, and it's less less work for you guys, and it's more value for the owner going forward. So I absolutely do believe in the utility of NFT and data storage.
Yep, and we're having conversations right now with documentation companies and other people in the industry to make that a reality. Uh, Gregory Marshall actually has teamed up with, and we partnered with him on a project. If you Google it, it was mentioned in Forbes with a yacht called Tactical that's being built right now, and it was purchased as an NFT. And all of those plans, so it's not built yet; it's in the process. Every
Yeah.
one of those blueprints, diagrams, anything that is going into that vessel being built in real life is going to be delivered as an NFT. So it's happening right now, and I think it'll be really neat when it happens as a part of every single transaction. So the company that I run called Denison Yachting, it'd be really neat if we partner up with Cloud Yachts and are able to deliver that as part of every single transaction, even if the buyer or the seller doesn't appreciate it now. We think the next cycle of buying and selling that eventually at some point that owner will appreciate the fact that we were thinking about that in the year 2022.
I don't think any buyer of any property ever appreciates title.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that you have to do.
Yeah.
So the fact that you make it easy is it's one of those kind of Apple-esque, Like it's something that everyone uses. No one really thinks about it. Let's give a sleek thing. So I really, again, I applaud you for taking, that cold call, somebody walking in your door, which I understand, you guys are busy and have a lot of things, and somebody coming in saying, hey, I want to make virtual yachts.
Yeah.
It takes a lot to have that kind of vision. What are you seeing as the response in your industry? So you're at a boat show. These things are now used as tickets for these cloud yacht tickets. What's been kind of the feedback of a little bit of the positive side and as well as the negative side?
Yeah, it's been almost all positive, but all positive kind of attached to we're not sure what this looks like. We're not sure what you're doing, but we are open to it and we want to support it. And so we're kind of leading the conversation with a lot of people that are open minded and want to support it. I think one of the best examples is Informa. They're a publicly traded company. I mentioned them before. They're one of the largest exhibitors in the world of trade shows and that kind of thing. They are the people that put on the biggest yacht shows in our space. We came to them with the idea of tying in a VIP pass, and the VIP pass thing at a yacht show is as cool as you would hope it would be. Really neat, sort of set apart space to enjoy a private area for really good drinks and food and all that stuff. And we actually tied them into the smart contract so that they would receive a portion of every single one of those NFT sales at the Miami drop.
Oh wow.
And they were excited not only for the prospect of that, they were also excited about the prospect of being able to include in their, PR kits the fact that there's an NFT play there. And they didn't totally get it, but they got it in terms of they knew it was exciting. They knew that there was a lot to gain and very little to risk. So they have been very good partners, and we're talking to them right now about doing the same thing in Monaco and Fort Lauderdale. So we have a lot of that starting the conversation, and because we have real relationships with them outside of the world of NFTs, it helps in terms of credibility and being able to gain their trust on that front.
And Bob, I'm happy to come with you to those locations to explain it to them if they need a little extra help.
Anytime.
Um, yeah. So when this, and I think you mentioned something really interesting about the smart contract, and so we've seen other projects that have are trying to revolutionize the pay process, because in traditional there's a single source collects all the money. They may or may not get around to distributing it right that day or that week or that
Yep.
month, and so it ends up being this cash flow problem of which creates debt, or minor amounts of stress throughout the entire ecosystem. So to go to the vendors, to go to all these people that are involved in this organization, and every minute of up to the second when someone mints one of these things, they see the transaction, they see the money in their wallet, and they know that this person's coming, and that's a dynamic change. Everyone can collect at once at that point of purchase versus having to wait till it's over. And I think that clearly no issues at these events, but we've seen it happen quite often with concerts. We've seen it quite often happen at other large events where there's financial issues. And so I think that it really says a lot to utilize this and have an organization that is as high profile as the yachting world, to say like, look, we can solve some problems for not even just the boat owners but also kind of the vendors, so the experience is elevated.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I think you're absolutely right, and we're not talking big numbers again. I kind of revealed or mentioned our total sales, and so on our smart contracts with those first few drops, and Informa benefited from it very little bit, but there was an excitement when they did receive their Ethereum, and it was I wouldn't say it was found money like finding $20 in your back your jean pockets or whatever, but there was that sense of like, oh my gosh, I didn't know that this was there, and this wasn't even something I was thinking about 30 days ago. So I think that helped, and will continue to help us having conversations with them about more and more events in the future.
No, absolutely. And the fact that, again, this is early. Most people still don't even understand when you say the word Ethereum, what it means. Is that a t-shirt? Is that, what is that?
Right.
And so, again, I just really am excited to have this prospect go out. Um, so circling back around to what you're selling today. So what's the current mint? Where's it at? And give us some more details about why someone would want to invest in that project.
So if you go to cloudyachts.io, it is going to show you the current mints that we have right now, and we have a calendar that we're about to release for our future mints. But it is they're all going to be connected, and we've made that commitment to in real life yacht designers. We have a few ideas. We really love the idea of being able to connect brands outside of yachting with teaming up with a great yacht designer and creating NFTs for some brands that would be totally unrelated to yachting, but might appreciate an affiliation with a yacht. So that's sort of one of our big dream ideas would be to connect with Lego, or you have or you team up with some athletes and you're able to work with a designer and come up with a series of yachts that are attached to some big primary brands that are out of our space. So there's things like that we're kicking around. But this year we've got about 7 or 8 more drops. We're really excited about it, and each of them is going to have a different connection to in real life events. So we have one coming up. Actually, we just did this last weekend where we extended for some of our NFT holders the ability to go out on a yacht down here in Miami. We teamed up with a company that we do a lot of business with on the day charter front down in Miami, and I've got to give the charter agency a little plug because they helped us with that, and it was really neat because we delivered that promise, which was something we were talking about 2 or 3 weeks ago. And one NFT owner actually drove down from Ohio. Another one flew down from New York, and we were able to all get together on a yacht in real life and just have a great time on the water down in Miami. It happened to be F1 week down here. It was just a really, really neat thing. So that is maintains a very critical part to what we do is in real life yacht designers and also in real life yachting experiences, not just not just not just
So, so you, yeah, not just the concept of it.
yeah.
So you brought up F1. Were you on real water or were you on the fake water?
There's
the
my little yeah. So we actually really love what they did. So it was in the parking lot as you know of Dolphin
F1.
Stadium, and there was no real water. I thought they did a really good job making the water look real. We helped support it by putting a few boats down there, but it was a really neat experience, and it was cool too because down there you're in Miami. We just had Bitcoin Miami last month.
Yep.
You have a lot of people coming in internationally, as you would imagine. There was a lot of conversations in and around the grandstands in the VIP area about crypto and about NFTs, which made it a uniquely Miami sort of F1 event. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. It was. I watched. I was looking at that and going, it's just genius. I mean,
Yeah.
people want to be, on the boats, and they're great. The water is kind of a pain. You got a dock, you've got all sorts of things going on, and so I thought it was just really. I'm like, yeah, leave them on the trailers, plug them in, let people use them, they looked great on TV. So I can tell you that much.
Yeah. It was one of the big challenges for the organizers of the event was to make it Miami, but it wasn't actually in Miami what you or I would think of a South Beach or being
Oh
on the
yeah,
sand. And they did a really good job of having a beach area and the marina. They did a really good job of making the track look like it was Miami with it actually being in the parking lot of a stadium. I thought they did a really good job coming up with the idea and an even better job executing on a very hard idea.
gotcha. Absolutely, absolutely. So where do you see? Do you see any competition coming in for what you guys are doing, or do you like? Is there a metaverse play? Like talk to us. I know you've done a really good job about kind of hinting at a few things you got going, but the fact that people can put on the VR goggles and experience a yacht is a great sales tool. What about just being able to kind of throw a yacht party on their virtual yacht? Is that something in
Yeah,
the plans?
it's a great question. We don't have any significant hard plans yet in Sandbox or any of the platforms. We are looking at it. We are a small team, and we're just sort of hell bent on getting this one thing right and then expanding to that. We just had a meeting a few weeks ago about buying land, and it just I think we will end up there at some point. And on the competition side, yeah, there's definitely going to be a few competitors for sure, which we love. I mean, I think that would be.
Yeah.
It almost feels a little lonely because we're one of the only people in our space sort of making an effort. And I think the more people do it, especially sincere people with really good ideas, the more credibility this whole thing will have in our industry. So we welcome that. We hope that it happens soon. And I'd be surprised if we didn't have some really really good old fashion yachting competition at some point during the fall shows, September, October. I think you'll hear of some other really really neat things happening in our space.
Awesome. And obviously, I'm assuming it's been a while since I've gone yachting. I assume there's a community that you guys have that people connect to, not just in person when they're out boating in various parts of the world, but also online as well. Is that something that has tie-in with what you're doing today?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So the community in real life, to buy a yacht and to own a yacht and to go through just the inconvenience of owning a yacht and crew, and you're buying something you really has no value other than just having an amazing time with your family and friends, and just it's the ultimate, I'm gonna disconnect and have an incredible like time of my life moment or moments. But you're buying something that costs a lot to maintain, costs a lot to own on so many different fronts, and it most of the time depreciates. It's basically a bunch of crazy people that are dedicated and committed to living this really neat life. And you pull into any marina, it doesn't matter what size boat you have or what year it is. There's just this really natural community of people that are obsessed with the water and are obsessed with just getting out there and having a great time. I always like to say, and I have four little kids, we're constantly fighting the kind of like iPad thing. When you're on a boat, it's much easier to win that game, right? The phones tend to get lost. So in real life, there's that natural community that
Yeah.
occurs of let's just hang out together, be together. And then on the metaverse NFT side, we're hoping for that to continue. We're too early in the game. I would love to just BS you and tell you it's there. It's really not yet. For us, it was a big deal again last week that we had some people very much inconvenience themselves, fly down, drive down from faraway places, and hang out together. So I think that's going to be neat when that stuff meshes together.
Yep.
And perhaps, I hope it happens, and I think it will. You'll have a few people that have never considered owning a yacht or buying a yacht. Perhaps their first step into that is as an NFT, and then it leads to a real life experience, and they decide to buy something in real life. So whether that happens this year or next, I'm not sure, but I really do believe it'll ultimately draw more people into this crazy world of yacht ownership.
What do you think? So when you talk about exposing new people to the terms of yacht ownership, what about the thought of a DAOs? Coming to you and saying there's 10,000 people that want to buy a mega yacht,
Yep.
and turn around and put it into your fleet for lease. Is that something that you guys have heard of yet?
Yeah, there's actually, we heard at Bitcoin Miami, we saw a company that was sort of having the beginning conversations of that. I don't think they ended up getting there quite yet, but they're at least exploring it and having good conversations with people about it. I think it might happen. I don't. I think one of the hardest first kind of how do we figure this out moments is going to be the number. Right now, we have in our industry things like fractional ownership, just like you would in aviation and a few other asset categories, but they're very small amounts of people. I
Yep.
do love that idea, um, but I think it's probably going to be a smaller set of people. And the easy part I think is going to be figuring out how to determine where to go, how long to stay. Like those are all easy questions to determine because everywhere is really fun on a boat. The hard part I think is going to infrastructure, just figure out the right number of people and figure out things like what happens when an engine blows or some unforeseen event happens and you've got to pony up some money. Just sort of the unpredictability of that I think is going to be tough too. But I do think it'll happen. And again, right now as I'm talking, I feel like this is my Katie Couric moment where I'm trying to explain something about the internet back in 1996. But I do think it will ultimately lead us in that direction. Just might look a little different.
Yeah, I mean, everything's evolving, and to be clear, we're truly in an unregulated space. The laws haven't come down, and we hope they come down favorable and more towards, kind of the technology and the adoption of the technology. What we've seen, unfortunately, from we're both U.S. based. What we've seen from the current U.S. government, not just in the past couple of years, but really up until now, has been really a harsh look at blockchain technology. So as opposed to Internet One and Internet Two, it was like, yeah, absolutely, Amazon, go do whatever, sell wherever you want across the country. You can ignore those tax laws. Like those are for brick and mortars. Like you're the internet. We're going to give you a pass to let you prosper and grow. And we're seeing the exact opposite. In blockchain, we're seeing, well, if you sell Ethereum for Bitcoin and Bitcoin to Solana, that's a taxable change each time you do that, versus using a very simple metric, which would have been like a 1031. It's a like kind exchange. I'm exchanging one cryptocurrency for another.
Yep.
It makes a lot of sense. And at the end of the day, when they say I'd like to buy a yacht now, I'd like to take this out and buy groceries, like let's go ahead and exit off a valid fiat ramp and make that purchase. That's a taxable. That to me is a taxable event, not so much going from truly Ethereum to wrap Ethereum is a taxable event. That makes no sense.
Yeah,
So
totally agree. I'm about to humble brag, so you got to forgive me. But I was on a panel about crypto last week, and one of the people on the panel was Jay Clayton, who used to be the chairman of the SEC a few years ago. And I didn't know what to, because I don't know much about Jay Clayton other than what I see him on CNBC, and I of course know a little about what his opinions are on crypto. But it was really neat hearing him discuss his opinions on exactly what you're talking about, because not only was he very open-minded and he really knew what he was talking about, and he really dove deeply into parts of that pool that you wouldn't expect him. And I think a lot of people in those positions, and at least our government, the US government, are really trying to think through that stuff and what's the consequence of the consequence of the consequence. And it probably isn't going to happen as soon as Jay or Bob would want it to be, but I really believe that there's going to be some really great solutions there soon, like in the next 1 or 2 years.
yeah, I mean, it has to come. The rest of the world is giving carte blanche to the technology, and creating some common sense. I'd say
Yeah,
rules around allowing it to be adopted and get to a good volume. But it is a very volatile asset class. I mean, we went all the way up to 3 trillion. We're down at about, I don't know, 1.5, 1.3, depends on what hour of the day it is right now.
yeah,
And it'll go back up and down. It's gonna be a lot of that for a while. Up until it kind of the stability such as the Dow and the Nasdaq, not not this week, but in normal weeks has variances of 2 to 3% would be very wild swings for that asset class. So
yeah.
we will certainly get there.
And even if the value does dip a little further, and to your point, goes up and down a little bit, I just, the thing that's most encouraging to me is that I can now have a sort of intelligent, comfortable conversation with my dad about it, and
Hmm.
he's more likely to either pay or accept with crypto just because he knows so much more about it now than he did 5 years ago. So, and it, to him, it doesn't matter where Bitcoin is in that particular moment, but he's just gaining such just a higher level of comfort. And so I think when that happens with like our parents, our uncles, our aunt, like that's when it's really, there's an opportunity for scaling. When you tried to have a conversation with my dad about Bitcoin 3 or 4 years ago, he was either terrified or just really confused, and that's changed extremely quickly.
Yeah, I mean, to me, and again, I'm certainly in a different class than most people in the way I think of these things. But I the amount of Bitcoin that I had in my wallet yesterday is the same as I'm going to have tomorrow and the day before that. And it doesn't change. It's always the same. The U.S. dollar, what people are buying and selling those for on the open market, they do fluctuate. But if I have a Cloud Yacht NFT, it doesn't matter if the market goes down 90%. I still have my Cloud NFT. I'm able to use it for the things I want to. And as crypto kind of comes up and comes back down, not only do I have a pass to a utility that I can use, but it's a sellable, transferable utility that if I can't make it to a boat show, or I just quite simply have lost interest, I can put that up on the market and someone else can take advantage of
Yeah,
it. And so I think that that's really the biggest difference is, right now in every industry, I'm sure for the boat shows as well, scalping is a problem. You have people that kind of come out and they take all these tickets and then they resell them at a higher amount. So having royalties being able to attach onto these, so every time it's traded, every time it's moved, there's something coming back to the original creator, and it does take away from that scalping ability. It makes it more into like, this is a verifiable utility. You guys can in your smart contract say, you can only get one of these,
right.
and you can't have a wallet that holds more of these. So being able to create some rules that are more consumer friendly, I think it cuts back on the fraud, and the price of these things later. Because fraud is, when someone's putting an event together, they go, well, we know there's going to be about 10% shrinkage on these tickets, so let's go ahead and account for that.
Yeah, you touched on something. I mean, a few things, but the one thing that makes, I'm just so bullish about NFT and just this conversation is the creators, whether it's a designer or whether it's a brand like Lego, or the they will be tied in on the revenue side every single transaction forever, which doesn't happen in real life. If my son sells his Lego set to the kid next door, Lego's receiving $0 of that transaction, rightfully so, right? But
Yeah.
it's a really neat idea whether it's an NFT as a we think of a traditional NFT or an asset in the metaverse. There's going to be a reward that's going on forever to the person that took the time and his or her skill to put that forth. And I think that's a really neat thing.
Yeah, and there's the other side of this that let's talk for marketers. Let's talk for kind of the manufacturers, which I truly believe don't always understand the case of the NFTs. So if someone has a bunch of boats spread out over a marina, it's not generally just the boats. It's there's the yachts, and then there's the toys, and then there's all the other assets that come around there. And so the thought of your entire industry getting together and saying, hey, here's how we're going to manage the NFTs that are attached to the physical side. So what we talked about earlier, which is the title and kind of the records around there, is that if and I'm going to apologize, I have no idea who a manufacturer of these any of these things are, but manufacturer A can look and say, hey, here's the top 50 wallets that hold our NFTs, which means that they own this yacht because this is the actual physical record.
Right.
And here's the people that are most loyal to our brands. And it seems that, 80% of these people have this exact same, Sea-Doo or Wave Runner that's tied to there. That's a huge, marketing plus, or just the fact that, hey, let's make sure that every one of our boats, if 90% of them have this same toy, how can we integrate that better into future yacht design? How
Yep.
can we integrate that better into service records to say, look, you already brought your boat in. We can have a guy come over and service these because we stand a 90% chance that you have one of these on board, and we might as well take care of it now versus you having taken somewhere else. So there's all these thoughts that manufacturers can suddenly service clients, not just in your industry, but every industry different, by knowing just a little bit more about them, and that they would never manually fill out. But on chain, it becomes a relevant thing.
Yep. And just imagine, and that's where I think it gets really neat, and that's where it gets into a better client experience. Imagine if there was a living, breathing NFT that was able to tie into technologies right now that the yachting industry is using, or for that matter, trucking. We're able to track the temperature of the engines, and you can tell at a certain RPM it starts to fail, and you look at 200 of those failing right, and you immediately will know there's a problem. You can anticipate the problem, let other people who are NFT or title owners know ahead of time that this is the issue. It's going to ultimately result in a better client experience, and I think that ultimately is going to be where this becomes something that's going to be indispensable to the yachting industry or automotive. We've got a while to get there, but that train of thought leads to some pretty cool places that get me extremely excited.
Yeah, and verifiable ownership, and let's be clear, everyone wants that exclusiveness. The reason why they come to you and they when they want to invest in this asset class, is not just the experience, but it's also kind of what that represents. And so having it, the boat shows are huge for a number of reasons, but when you pull up and you're on brand A versus brand B, you can clearly see what they pulled up, and you know that they're there, and you can have an intelligent conversation knowing that that person has this. When you leave the marina and you walk away and you're at a restaurant or you're at a convention or you're just kind of out in cyberspace having conversations, pictures don't mean anything anymore.
Yeah.
But being able to verify, like, yes, I should be in this small chat room or this thread because I own one of 50 of these things, and I can have an entire conversation with just the other 49 people that are like me that have this. And again, have that's a very valid way to for a manufacturer to get feedback, as well as to reach their clients and say, hey, these are the upgrades for next year. What do you think? Is this, we never use the radio anyway, we all replace it, so don't even bother. Can you just leave it out for us, and we'll put our own in? Like, those are the kind of things I believe across many asset classes outside of yachting will happen.
And that's where it really becomes a real thing. And I think that's one of the I cringe when I see Elon Musk tweet a image of a bored ape and say, oh, this doesn't look very fungible to me. And it just, you just miss the point of what this thing is. I could very easily take a picture of a Sunseeker yacht that's not mine and claim it's mine. But the blockchain is gonna support that. I am the rightful owner. This isn't just a picture. This is my thing, whatever that could be, art or anything else. And I think that's where the real value is going to live. And one day we'll look back on tweets like that and laugh. But I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions. As I now am talking to my parents about NFTs, they're sort of in that beginning stage, like, what is this scary, terrified, confused thing? And the more that you lead people into that direction of the conversation, I think the quicker they're gonna pick it up.
Oh, the days that we have right now of these, profile pictures and randomly generated garbage. I mean, 99% of all this stuff is dead. If you own it now and you're wondering, when's the floor going to rise on this random thing, unless there's an active team behind it doing something, the chances that millions of people around the world are going to grab a hold of it like they did the apes or the punks is so minuscule. And
Yep.
so, what you're doing right now with Cloud Yachts is what you're testing the waters. You're trying to get people engaged to understand this. And the great part about that is, unlike you just kind of selling here's a hat or a t-shirt or something, and you can wear, hey, wear this wristband and you get into this event. You now know who these people are. You can reach out to them. It lives on kind of forever. Even if the utility eventually goes away, you can see, well, this person's attended, the last 20 of these events because they hold these NFTs. And so I think that the utility side is very important, which most people miss. The visual side, and you're looking at behind me some of our crystal whales, like, they look pretty because I want them to look pretty, but that has nothing to do what they do.
Right.
They are access and utility and again, membership, proof of membership to the various thing parts of our organization there. So I could remove that and just give you a black screen, and they would work just as well and whatnot. So I think that you're going to see, again, with what you're doing with these designers, is make it pretty, make it look good, because
Yep.
people, it's you can buy a purse. Anyone can go buy a purse. The reason why people go buy Louis Vuitton and all these other ones is because not only is it functional, but it looks really nice. And so
Yep.
I think that we're going to start to see a lot of this, like, but you have to start with utility. You've got to start with what does it do, and then you should make it look pretty.
Yep, totally agree. And I think that's one of the it's there's this like intersection of the utilitarian part of it, which I agree is the foundation of it. But then you tie into that making it aesthetically pleasing and something you would like to show off. And then you also have this other convergence of like the part of me that is still there as a 9-year-old kid that wanted to collect baseball cards, and there was a certain set or a rare edition. And you
Yep.
you have all of those kind of three things come together. I think when an NFT is done right, and it will ultimately, again, into our case, hopefully into the the experience of owning a yacht is better or easier, or it in some way strengthens the community. I think that's where we're gonna end up figuring out how this whole thing's going to work. But I really think at least two of those three things need to be there. The collectability part, I think, is kind of optional, but the utilitarian and the making it look good, I think, are both incredibly important.
Yeah, no, and it's coming, and whether someone chooses to remain anonymous or chooses to be a known person, that choice is still yours, and so you can own all these things and have them in a wallet and have it be a pseudonym, and that's entirely fine. There's no laws against owning NFTs that aren't in your name. You'll still get KYC'd when you got to buy the boat.
Right. Yeah.
But I
Exactly.
think that really provides a good level of being able to say, I want, this is my in real life, and here's my name and my person. But outside of that, I do want some privacy, and I want the utility behind it, but I don't need it to be known. And I think that's a very big difference, because when you work with a centralized system, they're going to come to you, and whatever boating manufacturer is going to say, yeah, we'd like you to register your warranty. Well, I know I need to, but I don't want to give you all that information. I don't want to be in any system
Right.
anywhere else. And I think that's a very big difference of things that we're going to see come down the pipes.
I agree. Totally agree.
So Bob, I mean, absolutely fabulous conversation, and one of the things I'm going to give you credit for is you actually have a much larger understanding of NFTs and the code behind them than I think a lot of people that are in your position do. A lot of times we have people that are like, yeah, we have a guy and he makes NFTs and here's the pretty look. You actually have a core understanding of not just what they are today, but potentially where they're going. And I really do appreciate the fact that you understand what the metaverse is and that it's not there yet. So you're not rushing to try to deploy something until we know really where is that going to be hosted, and what is the experience people want. Because putting a boat that people stand on into Decentraland would last for about 8 seconds. And they'd be like, cool, great. What
Right.
I could have gone to the website for this. So I really applaud you again for doing the research and from your position understanding it. How can
Thanks.
people that are interested in Cloud Yachts or Denison Yachts, how can they reach you guys?
Yeah, so Cloud Yachts is cloudyachts.io. You'll see our mints there, and we're really excited and proud about the things coming. So if you do happen to like boats and yachts, we encourage you to check that out. And then our the yacht brokerage company is called Denison Yachting, and that can be found at denisonyachting.com. And I appreciate it. This is a lot of fun, Jay, and it was a blast for me. I can't wait to look back on this conversation in 10 years and find out the number of ways that I was totally wrong. But I think
I,
it was worth it.
I think you're going to be right a little more than you were wrong on this one. And in fact, you made no real predictions. You just quite simply were over. Here's the overview of the landscape, and
Yeah.
here's the hopes and dreams that we have. So, absolutely, Bob. Thank you so much for the time. yWhales, there you go. There's Cloud Yachts as well as Denison Yachts, and we're also thankful that Denison Yachts is going to be down in Palm Beach for Permissionless next week, where hopefully all of us will be hanging out. So,
Yeah.
thank you guys, and we'll see you next time. Be good.
Bye.